Hi everyone, it's Georgia down here in Australia, and here I am with project number 3 for my October 2021 virtual faith art retreat, Thy Will Be Done. And I am going to make something to add to my little pre-corner that I sort of set up at the start of lockdown number 1, 2020, and have kind of kept this little special space in my home. So I'm going to make a little quote painting. Now, I am using this thing. I've sanded it all back because it had a useless quote on it that I was completely not interested in. Don't get me wrong, there are some really wonderful motivation and just lovely quotes out there in frames and on plaques and things, but this was one of those stupid new age rubbish quotes that anybody who knows me would just know I'd be rolling my eyes at it. So I've sanded it all back and I'm going to paint it, and I think I'm going to paint it a really dark, almost blacks kind of galaxy look, which I've never actually done that. Most of my galaxies have sort of got colours through them, and it's a really, really long time since I've done an acrylic paint galaxy, so really hoping this goes well. Seeing how I'm not going to practice, I'm just going to bang straight onto the project. But I'm going to do that, and I want it quite dark because then with white I am actually going to write my own quote, and fitting in with our retreat theme, the quote that I'm going to write is going to be, "Not my will but yours." And I think that will look really nice in my little space. So the first thing I want to do though is take this thing off, which is going to make it really difficult to paint while it's rocking back and forth. So I'm just going to, hopefully that will unscrew nice and easily. Okay, I'll put those somewhere safe so I don't lose them. I'll put this aside as well. So now that will sit nice and flat, which will be a lot easier to work with. And the first thing I'm going to do is just paint it with at least, I imagine, a couple of coats of white gesso. Even though I'm going to paint something that's quite dark, I still don't want this sort of colourful background interfering with what I'm doing. I'll just give myself a nice white surface to work with. Now, you don't need to have this kind of a plaque, if that's the right word for it, to make yours. You could use a canvas. If you have a photo frame that you can pick up even at, a cheap shop, or even secondhand at a thrift store, you could use that and paint the card that comes inside the frame, or your own piece of paper which you can then put into the frame. So you could have something that's actually framed that you can put on the wall. You could just use a piece of wood if you have pieces of wood at your disposal. You could use some thick card, watercolor paper, anything. You don't need to have this sort of setup that I have. Anything that you like to paint on that you can then use either to stick on the wall or put into a frame. You could even actually do this in your Bibles. You do this as a Bible page if you wanted to, or do it in a journal. So I'm going to give that a second coat now. So I'm painting this coat at a 90-degree angle from the first one. So the first coat was vertical strokes, now I'm doing horizontal strokes. And that just helps with the coverage. Now, because this is a three-dimensional thing and it's going to be sitting on my table, I'll be able to see the sides, the edges. So I want to make sure that I also paint those sides. Now I'm going to end up painting them with the same colors as I paint my galaxy background. But just to give it a bit of a prep coat, I am giving them a layer of the gesso as well. I'm not bothering with the bottom because I know that that's going to be standing on the table, so I'll never see it. All right, I'm just going to put that on something to dry. Now, because I am painting a pretty much black and white kind of galaxy / night sky, what I think I'll do is I'll actually give this a layer of black paint so that I've got a really, really black background, and then I'll sort of add some lightness to it. So I think that would be the easiest way to go. So I'm going to, actually I might do my little edges first. Let's get some black paint in here. And I'm just painting black around the edges. And now I'll paint a nice thick coat of black on my surface. Now this is not a time to be frugal with the paint. I want it to be really, really solid black. So I'm giving it a really nice thick coat. If you are planning on doing a galaxy or night sky that has got more colors in it and is not so black and white or so exclusively almost black like mine's going to be, then you probably don't need to do this step. Or if you do this step, you probably don't need it to be quite as solid black because you're going to be adding some colors. And I will put a link in the comments below to one of my earlier tutorial videos on painted galaxies that has a galaxy with some different colors through it. So if you'd like to watch that and see how I did that one. But this is the black and white one. I really want this to be a very solid black background. Now this is definitely a leave to dry overnight kind of job. Okay, so this is really dry now. I left it overnight and all day. So I'm going to now put another layer on, which I'm going to turn into my sort of night sky galaxy-ish look. So I have the black paint again, I have some white, and I have some dark blue. This is Dina Wakley Lapis. What I'm planning to do is have the board mostly black, but down the center sort of have that kind of milky looking faded out whiteness, a Milky Way look coming down my page. And to do that, I'm going to sponge in some white and a tiny bit of blue. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to go because, as always, I have not done a practice run. And like I said, it has been a while since I've done this sort of thing. So we'll see how it goes. Worst case scenario, I completely muck it up and I do another layer. So I'm just putting some blobs of black paint directly onto my board. And I'm just going to put some white down the center. And some tiny bits of blue. And kind of brush the black. Might need a bit more than that, I think. So I'm brushing the black and I'm sort of going from where I have blotted it towards the outside of the board. So the outer parts of the board are nice and covered. This is going to get messy. And now I'm sort of just blending this part in the center. Clean a bit of my brush off. I'm sort of blending that across. Now I know it's not looking like much at the moment. A bit more black down here. So now I'm going to put a few more dabs of white. Tiny bit more blue. And I'm now going to use a sponge and just, uh-oh, that was for comic relief. I'm using a sponge to kind of dab that colour, or that white rather. And I'm sort of making it come in this diagonally kind of shape. I'm bringing the blue into it. And I'm not sure how that's showing up with the glare of the lamps. If I turn this off for a second, no, I think it's going to be worse. I know this is probably quite difficult to see. I apologise for that. So giving you a bit of a different angle to see what looks best without the glare. Now I know it looks really quite boring, and it's far, far, far from perfect. I am way out of practice with this. Not that I was ever particularly good at it. But the thing with galaxies and night skies is once we've done them, or once you've got your background colours, then we do the paint spattering of stars. And I always say that doing that is very forgiving of the background, because your background might look very kind of meh. But once you put those spattered stars all over it, it kind of brings everything together. Just putting a little bit of blue directly onto my sponge. It's barely enough to see, but it's just to kind of break up that blackness. I'm going to add some black up the top because I made a bit of a mess up there. So you just keep working at it, adding layers, adding bits of black, adding bits of the white. Now, of course, you don't have to do a black and white one like I'm doing here. I just thought I would do something a little bit different. I kind of like to challenge myself with these retreat projects and do something that I haven't done before. Which is kind of insane, really. You would think that I'd do something that I know how to do, so I don't look quite so hopeless. Okay, so just dabbing along. If you think you've got too much of one colour, just dab a little bit more of another one. Dab along with your sponge, blend with your brush. You'll sort of find as you do this that you'll have a preferred method. And for some people, doing it with a brush works so much better. Some people hate doing this with a brush and will only do it with sponges. It kind of depends on, well, just you really. I've been known to use my fingers. But I think we all know that about me now. I'm a bit of a finger painter. Okay, so I think I'm kind of going to stop here. Just blend this out a bit. Okay, so it looks incredibly boring, I know. But we'll fix that. I'm going to give that a dry. Okay, so that's lightened up a little bit. And I'm now going to do some white paint spattering all over it. So I still have my white paint here. Have a really wet brush. And just load your brush up with really wet white paint, and then just hold it over your picture and tap it lightly with your finger. Now, the more watery your paint is, the easier this will be. Now you can do just a little bit if you want, or you can do heaps and heaps. I am completely going to town with this, and I'm going to do heaps and heaps and heaps of stars all over it. Now I'm just going to use another brush to tap it. Yeah, that's better. Now that's giving it that awesome millions and millions of stars look. So I've got some larger stars and shooting stars kind of happening, and then I've got that background of just millions and millions of stars. And I'm not 100% happy with my background, so I'm really drowning it with stars so we don't notice it too much. Okay, now that I do need to let sit and dry naturally, because if I dry it with my heat gun, I know I'm going to make those larger stars move and spread, and then I'll have way too many sort of shooting star kind of look. So I'll just let that sit and dry on its own for a little while. Okay, so gosh, I don't think there's ever a retreat where we don't have a case of Georgia mucking up so badly. And this is what happened here. I just made this whole video telling you about the verse I was using and why I was using it, and how, showing you how I was writing it. And then I happened to look up at the iPad and the screen is black. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what happened? I forgot to press the record button. So very long story short, okay, I have used one line from Luke 22, not my will, but yours be done. I actually saw the way it's written like this. I actually saw it, I think on Pinterest. There was a picture of a iPhone screensaver, and it was all, the background was all black, and there was his verse written down the side like I've done here. But I thought, oh, I really like that idea. So I've used that idea in spacing out my words so they just go down the side like this. I've used my white Posca paint pen. Now I've had to do quite a few layers to try and get it to be that stark white that I want, because, you know, on a black background was not easy. I might actually come back in time and do another layer or two. And to make it stand out some more, I outlined in a thin black Posca pen. I'm not 100% happy, and I'm sort of thinking maybe I should have left it, but it's done now. So that is my painted verse. So that's actually ended up being quite a quick project to do. Most of the time that you spend on it really will be the time that it takes to dry. Otherwise, it's been a pretty, you know, quick and simple thing, which is really great. Now I'm going to grab this little stand thing again and try and get these screws back in. So there we have it. Well, not a real great view. I'll do another sort of view for you in a second. So this is my little painted verse decor plaque. I'm not quite sure what to call it. I may or may not, I'm not sure. I'm actually thinking of giving it a coat of collage medium or gel medium or something to seal it. Half of me sort of thinking, oh, imagine using dimensional magic so it's got that glossy look, but I'm kind of thinking maybe I'll regret doing that. So maybe I can get a glossy Mod Podge, which I don't actually have. But yeah, I'm not sure. At the moment, I mean, I don't mind it like this. Over the course of time, I may or may not give it a coat of something to seal it. And I definitely will come back and put another layer of white on those letters just to make it stand out some more. But otherwise, that is it. Thank you very much for joining me. This has been our number 3 final, apart from the tags, our final project for my October 2021 Virtual Faith Art Retreat, Thy Will Be Done. You can catch the retreat as an event in my Facebook group, God's Refrigerator. If you're not in my Facebook group, why not? You are invited to come on over, knock on the door, answer the secret question, and we'll let you in. And if you create one of these, I would love to see it. Come over to the retreat and show us there, or anywhere in the group, or if you're not into groups, show me on my Georgia iDreams Facebook profile, or put it up there on Instagram and tag me so I can have a look, because I do love to see all your expressions of faith in your artistic works. Now, all my social links are down below. Thank you again for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.